Can we turn on? Can you hear me? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please get into the room for the most interesting, exciting session of the day. Okay, I think the clock is ticking. Ladies and gentlemen, great to be back here. My name is Mato Njavro. I serve as the Dean of Zagreb School of Economics and Management. It's my second time at this conference, consecutive second time. I had the pleasure of being here last year, and it's great to see the conference grow and develop so well in this wonderful city of Dubrovnik, where it's not easy to organize conferences. I mean, you really have to black out the room, eliminate any possible distractions. There's so many different reasons why you want to be outside and not here with us. So I respect the fact that you are here with us today. And you know, as the dean of a higher education institution, when it comes to AI-related events, I was very worried about today's event. And the reason why I was worried is I was looking at, yesterday we had a commencement speech at the university, so I had to give a speech to my students. And obviously, you know, you have to talk or mention AI, it's inevitable. So how do you address it? Have you seen what happened to some famous business people in the US recently in the last few months, where they were giving speeches? For instance, Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, when he started talking about AI, he got booed. He got booed badly. So I'm glad to see that the room has actually is quite full, and that you're still with us here and interested in what we have to say. I think the topic is, as much as there might be a little bit of AI fatigue, but it's probably one of the most important topics of the day. Let me first start by introducing my fellow panelists. We have a great team of speakers today, and then we'll jump right back into the topic. So to my right, Dr. Sanja Nishtar. Sanja is the CEO of Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, or the so-called Gavi. Great to have you here. Extensive experience, not just in the global health, public health, but also in government. Originally from Pakistan, at the various levels of government. It's great to have you in Dubrovnik. First time here? Excellent. Ms. Tatiana Valovaya. Tatiana is the Director of General UN Office in Geneva. Thank you for joining us here today. We have with us also somebody representing Croatia, Mr. Ivan Crnčec. Mr. Crnčec is a State Secretary in the Ministry of Justice, Public Administration, and Digital Transformation. I mean, this is a, wow, what a portfolio. We'll talk a little bit about that and how that beast appeared. Mr. Henry Wang for a second panel today. Great to see you, Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang is a founder and president of this think tank called Center for China and Globalization, CCG, based in Beijing. Second time here also at the conference. Last but not least, representing Central Eastern Europe, Poland in particular, but the CEO of AI Chamber, Mr. Tomasz Snazik. Great to have you here with us. So as you can see, you know, we're going to have quite a few different perspectives on what I really am confident is probably the most important epochal question of today, which is, you know, AI. And when we think about AI, especially when you think about the name of our panel and the topic of our panel, so AI, geopolitics of AI, I think I would like to start with the mental exercise. Let's literally try to think about the geopolitics of AI and how AI is produced. And I have good news for you. First of all, the supply chain of AI is such that no single pole, we're talking about multipolar world, so no single pole actually controls the whole supply chain of AI. And that's a good news, by the way, because if a single pole controlled it, world would be probably a much unsafer place. And what do I mean by that? So I'm going to provide context before jumping to my panelists. So if you think about how is AI produced, you know, Europe frequently gets, you know, pushed aside as a pole that is not so important. But actually, if you think about it, you know, you all know about ASML, the Dutch company producing extreme ultraviolet lithography machines. Without those machines, the cutting edge chips do not get produced. So they produce the machines, they ship it over to Taiwan, to TSMC. TSMC takes these machines, and then TSMC gets an order from NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is the one who designs it, they don't produce it. So chips are designed in the US, just like iPhone is designed in the US, but it's not produced in the US, it's produced in Taiwan. We're talking about the cutting edge of chip making. Of course, Samsung does it too, Korea can do it, China can do it, but there's still a gap between what China can produce and what TSMC can produce. So we have, and then the large language models. So there we have three strong poles. Certainly, probably, and we have two different philosophies. We have the American philosophy, where it's basically the private companies funded by private capital, whether it's VC or deep capital markets, are producing these large language model in a closed source model. So these are, for-profit companies. They want to earn money. They're here to earn money, and at the same time produce it. Then we have a completely different philosophy over in the East, in China, where the model is completely different. So it's fully open sourced, and we will get back to that, Mr. Wong, and you will explain to us a little bit the philosophy behind the Chinese approach to AI. So we have the chips get produced in Taiwan under the design by NVIDIA and or AMD and similar companies. Then they get brought back to the US. Then they got put in the big data centers, massive data centers that require abundance of energy. I had the pleasure of visiting US recently. I was in Texas, and they showed us a couple of these. I mean, those are beasts. Those are massive buildings requiring a lot of water, energy, and water, energy. So as you can see, from our little story, Europe plays a role. With ASML is an important player. It's a key strategic asset. Taiwan plays an important role. In terms of the models themselves, it's the US Big Seven, if you want to call them, currently, by the way, taking up almost 30% capitalization of the overall New York Stock Exchange. So we're talking about these. I mean, the whole American economy is very much growing on steroids and AI. And then we have these two approaches of, let's say the approach by closed source American companies and the Chinese one. So this is just kind of to lay the foundation of our discussion, which naturally leads me to maybe ask the first question to Mr. Wong. I think we have a pretty decent understanding here of how the American companies work. We are using them. Most of these, all of us are probably using these American products, except when they, for the reasons that we are not American citizens, cancel us out all of a sudden. But can you tell us a little bit about the underlying philosophy in China and how Chinese model differs from the American one when it comes to the development of AI?
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. It's nice again to be back on the Geopolitics forum. I think the topic we're having today, AI, is absolutely probably one of the key subject of the day, because nowadays if you go any place, you hear about that, and then China is also become such a hot topic. We remember when ChatGPT revealed a few years ago the Davos, and the whole world is a surprise. And then 2 years ago when DeepSeek started in China, there's a lot of attention being given. So we are actually, what I'm thinking is now we are entering into uncharted territory now. It's so unclear because you have other things. There's always some kind of a global regulations or a framework, but then the AI, we are now having a kind of AI race, to say the least. And then I remember when Henry Kissinger, when he passed away, his last piece he jointly wrote with Graham Allison, which I have collaborated a lot. We just published a book recently, Escaping His Trap. But they worry about AI will be the next, very dangerous, very, uncontrollable thing happening. So I think, but also again, in AI is also, if we can contain, if we can tame it well, it can be also very productive forces. For example, China now is using a lot of AI now. It's called AI Plus, and that combined with robotic process, that combined with open AI model, basically. You know, when you talk about DeepSeek, it's open source.
Open source, yeah.
Yeah, when you have OpenAI, but it's actually closed, and the U.S. is even closed it a bit more. So there could be a danger if it's too close. Then we don't know what's going to be cooked, what's going to be developed, and that could be not transparent. That could be a danger to the world. So what I think is important is that we need to establish an international or global AI organization, like China is proposing that. I think that I'm very glad to see President Trump and President Xi recently met in Beijing, but then they're great, they're going to start the AI dialogue, which they are agreed to do that. So I think this is
But from your perspective, I mean,
yeah.
who should be the final arbiter of you know, AI? Because currently in the U.S., I mean, who's the arbiter? The arbiter is Sam Altman from OpenAI. The arbiter is Dario Amodei from Anthropic, right? So ultimately, it's individuals who are motivated by profit, by power, by fame, and that is currently where the buck stops in the U.S. Obviously, we've seen the American government also intervene in the last couple of weeks with the new Mythos model when they said, "Oh no, you cannot expose this model to the public," and they had to react. But still, these organizations in the U.S. are very private, closed, individual dependent. China has taken a different approach. Why? And who do you think ultimately should be regulating the soul of AI?
Absolutely,
so
you're right. I think right now there's two superpower of AI, U.S. and China probably. Like AI, 30-40% of AI talent in the United States coming out of China. I was in Washington just 2 months ago. There was AI closed door meetings. They will all talk about the top AI talent in the U.S. A lot of China trend. So what I think it's very important now is that I think the international government, particularly United Nations, we have a representative here, should really start, to beef up their work on the global AI dialogue and regulations and what have you, So that's the framework is really badly needed on that. Second, you talk about who is really in the AI lead. I think it's hard to say. There was saying China is a few months behind, maybe a year behind U.S. But China is really very important, is that the essence of AI is computing power. And the essence of computing power is electric power. China is 2.5 times generating electric power of U.S., 3 times of Europe. So I think China with this massive application. I know the summer Davos is finishing today in Dalian in China. Yeah. The theme of this year is called Scale of Innovation. So you're talking about scale. China probably is the biggest scale. The largest applications, say, largest data center, 1.4 billion smartphone users. That generate a lot of things for AI to use. So I think China has its advantage. Of course, you talk about chips. China is behind, but you see Huawei is developed the phones now and it become very profitable. Design its own chips on development. So I think that China, U.S., they have to talk together. I really echo this China-U.S. dialogue that President Trump and President Xi started in last month's visit. But I really hope that international organizations, European, more at regulating, more great at this AI regulatory experience. We should probably all work together to really have a great framework for the AI development for the world.
No, because AI really is a kind of an once-in-a-generation type of technology. It's not just technology that produces intelligence or that produces something. It's a technology that will fundamentally reorganize the way society works, right? Because it will reorganize how the companies are run, how government is run. It will reorganize supply chains. It will kind of go into every pore of the society, and that is why the question of how it should be governed and who should govern it, should a guy like Dario, should Dario govern it? I just had a very interesting conversation during lunch with a very interesting young American gentleman. So we were discussing about these things. He's not a big fan of, I'm not going to say who he is, but the person is not a big fan of Dario, because he has a feeling that Dario, not because of Dario, but that Dario is like behaving a little bit like holier than thou, like he's taking a very high moral high ground. But why should he in particular be? And then my question to the gentleman was, well, maybe the U.S. government should nationalize all these AI companies if it is really such a unique infrastructural type of technology that will reorganize the whole society. Maybe that's the case. At least then you have some kind of checks and balances, because currently there are, at least in the American context, it's not really clear how the checks and balances of the AI ecosystem work. They're very much concentrated in a few private hands. Ms. Tatiana, we have you from the UN. What's your take on the governance issue of AI? Who should govern it? Can UN do it? Can UN be relevant in that context? What's your view?
UN, of course, should be relevant, but of course, UN can't govern it. That's absolutely clear. It's a very interesting question. Why? Because for the time being, even states, national states, are not governing their own AI. You just raised the issue about nationalization, and that this might be something on the agenda in some parts of the world, because when you're really entering the period when development of the AI is not only about technological development, but it's about geopolitics, it's about your place in the world, it's about your competition, of course, governments want to play their role. If we go back, for example, space race of the 50s and the 60s, it was driven by the states. AI is driven by the private sector. And of course, the question of governing AI is very, very important these days. Normally, and we all know from history, that first is the technological revolution, then governance. Well, first cables were sent in the 30s, in the 40s of the 19th century, the first international in 1858, and the body who started regulating ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which exists still within UN system, was established in 1865. So we see nuclear arms and nuclear energy. 1945 we saw the destructive results of use of the nuclear power. 10-12 years later there were first decision in 1955, the treaty, and then International Atomic Energy Agency was established in 1957. So it was always after. What's interesting about AI, this gap is a little bit smaller because
which gap? You mean
between appearance of the technology and the attempt to start governing it on the international level. Because, for example, if we're talking about AI, first AI for Good Summit, organized by UN-led agency ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which I also mentioned, took place in 2017. It was before AI became a fatigue. It was before the first GTP model appeared in 2022. So that shows that the thinking about the risks and the possibilities became even before technology became really available to everybody. That's good. But at the same time, we understand that, of course, one body, and I do not believe that there will be UN body governing artificial intelligence. No. But UN has a significant role to play, to set the norms, to set the principles, to discuss ethical issues, to discuss the issues of human rights, to discuss the issues of inclusivity. And for example, now, just in a week's time in Geneva, there will be the first event, the first global dialogue on artificial intelligence as a result of the Pact of the Future, as a result of the decision of the General Assembly of the United Nations. And we know that the member states want to discuss inclusivity. They want to discuss how to exclude the possibility of AI divide between those who already have AI systems and those who don't, but will suffer the consequences. So I think that's how process will develop. It will be, of course, some layered system with United Nations playing an important role, but of course there will be national regulations, there will be technical bodies, and there will be, hopefully, open source networking institutions which will actively participate in all this process.
Very interesting. The reason why I was maybe being a little bit provocative with the idea of nationalizing AI companies, but last time, let's say if you consider this AI thing that we're going through as a technological and societal revolution, which is an argument that is, can fairly be made. If you compare it to, let's say, the first industrial revolution that gave us, that produced the first layer of big entrepreneurs, it created an extreme amount of inequality in the world. And as a kind of what was the effect, the societal effect of first industrial revolution was also that, societies pushed back towards this inequality. We had Marx, we had communism, we had all this was all a byproduct of kind of a first industrial revolution. So we are, in a way, one can make an argument that the world has never been a better place in many ways. But however, when it comes to, let's say, inequality in particular, let's say the US, it's mind-boggling, right? It's almost back, I was there just during the week when SpaceX had IPO, and SpaceX raised $75 billion at a 1.3 trillion valuation. And one of the first things SpaceX, as you might know, has 3 different business units. Starlink, profitable. Shipping things to space, profitable. And then XAI, a money-losing bottomless pit. And they used the first thing that they did. So the whole IPO was, well, it's not an exaggeration to say that the IPO of SpaceX was to fund partially the acquisition that they just announced. Cursor, you've seen, they bought an AI company for $60 billion. So it's we really live in an AI world, and it's going to be. That's why I'm insisting a little bit on this governance issue and how we will govern the fallout, which will both be positive, and it already is. It's augmenting many facets of our daily life, but it's also going to have some. I'm an economist. We like negative externalities. Mr. Trnčec, first of all, I don't think there are too many countries in the world that have the Ministry of Justice, Public Administration, and Digitalization. And maybe for the benefit of our international guests, maybe explain a little bit how that came about. And my first question will be a simple one. Do you see synergies between these 3 massive portfolios?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. I will be very, very frank and blunt. I was not a big fan of it. First, I'm primarily in charge of judicial system of justice, and first, when six years ago we were merged with public administration, we already became massive. And then 2 years ago, digital transformation was added to our portfolio, and now we are really huge. The thing is that I thought, maybe there are some, of course, there was a political message because, beforehand, the digital transformation was a state office, so we upgraded it to the level of ministry. I think it clearly showed that we care about it, that it's important. But I think it's much, it's much more logical to maybe, connect public administration and digital transformation. And, I think it shows some good results already. We are horizontally upgrading, we are modernizing, we are digitalizing our public administration, and you can really see the difference. We have, for example, our system, our application called eCitizens, which is providing online access to public service, which is covering, I think, 123 public services.
I have to give you a compliment, really,
Yeah.
but this is a true story. So I lived in Singapore for 4 years, and I came back to Croatia just before pandemic. And in Singapore, really everything, everything is digital, everything is super easy. You do things that normally take in Europe a week, 2 weeks, a few minutes. Then I came back to Croatia, and I was very positively surprised by e-građani, the whole system. I was like, wow, this is almost.
I think it's amazing. We are a country of 3.9 million people, 3.9 million citizens, and 2.3 million are e-citizens. So people are really using it. We have calculated the savings. I think it's around 15 euros per one, not going to the counter.
Yeah.
So not spending the money on gas, on parking, on public transport, simply for not queuing the line at the counter. And it all amounted to, I think, something around 2 billion savings so far. So it's a huge thing. But for me, what is even more interesting is this justice and digital transformation connection, which, as I said, I was not very big fan of it, but I think now that it is also really showing great results.
Can you give us an example of some
examples? Yeah, very concrete. So I mean, we are talking about AI today, of course, which usually, judiciary is very conservative, I would say, and very reluctant to all these new technologies. We have had for 15 years one system which was for anonymization and publication of jurisprudence, of judgments, of judicial decisions. It was conducted manually, and in the span of 15 years, 330,000 judgments were published, anonymized and published. And then at the beginning of last year, we introduced a new system, which has an AI-based model in it. And we have, of course, transferred all these 330,000, and just in a span of 18 months, we have added, I think, around 770,000 more. So we are at 1.1 million anonymized, by AI and published, and I think it is really showing the strength and impact of AI. And one other thing that we are doing right now, and this is a huge project, which is going to change, I think, hopefully, for much better the whole, system, how our judiciary works. Now, when you come to court, you in any role, as a party, as a witness, as an expert, whatever, you give a statement, and then this statement is being kind of summarized and paraphrased and dictated by a judge to a typist. So you are losing a lot of time, and also, reliability of the minutes is also pretty questionable. So now we are introducing audio recording of main hearings. Again, in the heart of this equipment is the AI, the artificial intelligence, and we are right now equipping over 1,500 courtrooms, so all the courtrooms in Croatia, and it will start mid next year. And we are certain that it will speed up the proceedings. It will be the minutes will be more accurate. So you can see that there are really benefits of us having such a cumbersome ministry. Another big project it's now in the pipeline, and it's hopefully also going to be going to start next year. It's called predictive justice. And this is also something huge. This sounds like
a science fiction movie. Minority Report, Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Not like that. We are not going in that direction. So one direction is towards judges, which is okay. We are going to have again AI-based templates for judges for some, let's say, model case types, for some maybe simpler case types like small value cases, misdemeanors, and we will also use AI for summarizing the jurisprudence. But the other thing, which is directed towards citizens, which I believe is even, I can say, more important, we will not go into prediction of outcomes, so not the Minority Report story, but prediction of costs and duration, which should be quite helpful for our citizens. To be very, again, frank, we have a huge number of influx of cases on annual basis, so maybe we also want to demotivate them a little bit, so maybe for them to use also mediation, conciliation, all these forms of alternative dispute resolution. So a lot of things that I think would have not happened if we were not in the same big ministry.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Dr. Nishta, you have worn over your career several hats as a medical doctor, cardiologist. You've been very close to the ground. You know what the problems with the healthcare sector are, not on a theoretical and abstract level, but on a very real level. Today, you are here representing Gavi and being a global public health leader. When it comes to AI, there's so much there should be a separate panel for just healthcare and AI, longevity. It's a big thing. Side note, I think during somebody overheard President Xi when he was, I think, speaking to President Putin, that he said, maybe with AI we can live 150 years and with longevity. But it's a big deal. Going back to my question for you is, when you think about this multipolar AI world and various different models coming from Pakistan, a region that has strong ties with China. How do you see the development of AI, in particular when it comes to applications in healthcare sector, and where do you think the biggest benefits of this technology could be?
So thank you for that question, and thank you for convening this panel, and thank you for the broad brush strokes with which you put the questions on the table. I think before I come to the health sector, the initial part of the discussion was very exciting. Because what you painted was a context, and if I can take sound
Please,
bites,
absolutely.
you know, if I can draw on your sound bites, you said AI, we're now going to be living in an AI world, and you said AI will reorganize the society. I think that is the context. We're not looking at a little technological innovation. We're looking at something so profound that perhaps humanity has never seen something so profound. And it is challenging what it is to be human and what it will be like to be human in the future. We're looking at something so profound. So the question is, are we going to look at it as a problem, or are we going to tap into an opportunity? Because if we tap into an opportunity, it could be the biggest equalizer we have seen on this planet. And the question is, what would it take for it to be an equalizer? I think that is the question we should be asking ourselves. And if that is the question, then we need to get our understanding about a few fundamentals right. Because there are some things in the world which cannot be done bilaterally, which cannot be done regionally. And for these few things, we have to be a collective one as a planet. And I'll give you an example, and I'm going back to the question that you raised about the health sector. In the health sector, for instance, as we speak, there's an outbreak of Ebola in DRC and Uganda. Now, that's not a problem we can solve bilaterally. That's not a problem amenable to regional fixes. Public health security is a matter of international concern, for which we need multilateral action. And I would say that AI is squarely within that space as well. So the world may be becoming multipolar, but we cannot discount multilateralism, however it will get defined in the new paradigm. You don't want to call it multilateralism, call it whatever you like, but in the construct of the future, because we're clearly moving towards a new world order, a construct for the future, there are going to be some things that for which all countries of the world will have to come together. And for those things, there has to be predictable financing that all countries of the world contribute to. And for that, the UN, in any new recasted size, shape, form, or structure, will have to be responsible, as Tatiana rightly says, for the norms and the principles. And we have to think about the governing arrangements, and those have to mirror into countries, and we have to think of financing. The issue is that things are moving at such scale and speed that the global normative system, the global multilateral normative system as it exists today, is completely unable to keep up. Because it takes us 1 year to convene member states to get consensus over language. And I think that the way in which we approach multilateralism in the future to look at issues such as, and we're just looking at 2 examples, global health security and AI, we need to completely change that. And we need to do something quickly, because this is not something we can spend months and years on. Now, in the health sector, coming to your question, in the health sector, we saw the taste of artificial intelligence, I would say a decade from now. Because in our radiology labs, I of course moved away from the health sector more than 26 years ago. From being a physician, I moved to the civil society, then I joined the government as a cabinet minister. I was a parliamentarian before I joined Gavi. But we saw the taste of artificial intelligence as, I would say, 15 years ago, when we realized that radiologists in the future may become obsolete. because AI algorithms were reading in radiology labs far better than we were.
Have they?
Yes, all the evidence shows that.
No, I mean, have the radiologists completely become obsolete? Or?
No, they haven't, and I think one of the conversations that we need to have, alongside the norms and standards, the governing arrangements, the regulatory arrangements, and the financial flows, both at the global and the country level, alongside that, the other conversation that we need to have is about the future of the workforce. Mm-hmm. Because the manner in which AI is displacing humans is massive and colossal. And to give you an example, we grew up in our careers in countries relying heavily on the UN system, because we, as a minister, I could pick up the phone and ask somebody in UNDP to develop terms of reference for a new role, to do a position paper, to do a brief. Those things are done in seconds now. Mm. So what is the future of technical assistance? And there's a whole edifice of institutions that stands on this. What is the future? So I come to this area with a lot of humility, because as the CEO of Gavi, running an institution, we are using AI to enhance productivity. Using the infrastructure we have, for the minutes, for the briefs, for looking at errors in audit and finance, integrating AI into all our daily operations. The next level for us is, how about mission critical work? How about we stop doing forecasting on Excel sheets and do that totally through AI engines? How about we write grant applications not through a year-long, long-drawn process, which has been the norm, but come out with grant applications in the next 10 seconds. And these are the kind of things we are institutionalizing. The other things that we are trying to institutionalize is to address some of the wicked problems that we have been addressing on the ground. I mean, in my sphere of work, in my institutional sphere of work, there are millions of children in the world who have never had a single dose of a vaccine. And we're trying to map, by triangulating data from various sources, not structured information, not structured data, how can we reach them out? The point I'm trying to make is that the impact of AI on all institutional spheres is so profound that people like myself are only beginning to realize what the scale and scope of the transformation could look like in the very near future. And we're not talking about a 5-year horizon. Yeah. We're talking about months here. So I think in the context of that future, in the context of how you framed it, living in an AI world, how do we structure the systems of multilateralism? How do we do that very quickly? How do we cascade that guidance to countries? And how do we come up to speed at a regulatory level with something that needs to be harnessed? Because if it is not harnessed properly, it will widen a divide at a scale that we have never seen. But there is also an opportunity for it to be one of the greatest equalizers that mankind has ever seen.
No, thank you very much. And now that I think about your key message, I think the AI reality, the AI world, the multipolar AI world will be a complicated and messy world, because at the same time we will have to collaborate. There's no going about it. The issues that we are facing, especially, let's say you mentioned the global health sector, this is something no single country can deal with themselves, as powerful as the country might be. So there will certainly be collaboration, but there will also certainly be at the same time competition, because countries, these poles, will all want to have some sort of control over how AI is interpreted and what is the soul of AI. We've seen that our partners in the US treat frontier AI capabilities as a kind of a strategic national asset, and anybody who's not American, cancel it for them until, So how does this make, for instance, Europe feel? Let's talk a little bit about that. Tomasz, you have been in the building AI ecosystem all across Europe. You're based in Warsaw, but you're the president, the CEO of AI Chamber. How do you see Europe's role, especially in the context of a word that we like to mention a lot, sovereignty, right? We like to be, Europe is hopefully in the middle of new awakening and of self-emancipation. How do you see Europe's role in the context of this multipolar AI?
Thank you, and thank you for having me. So first, just to say what I do, I have as members enterprises from the CE region, from the 11 countries from the CE region, and from Estonia to Croatia, we have members that deploy AI, that build models. And we have members from, 11 labs to a sole entrepreneur that does something with human resources and with AI. And we have more than 100 members. So before I answer your question, two things. I wanted to applaud you. I never heard a better summary of Chris Miller's book Chip War. If you haven't read it, read it. But if you haven't, at the beginning we had the best summary of the book. So just wanted to applaud that. I want to also add one layer to that, which is research that you didn't touch. And the research is mainly actually exploited by US and China. The only, I would say, university on the map in Europe is ETH, which is also subsidized by the European Union as well, of course. But the vast majority of students over there are mainly they're from Asia or from US. So just wanted to also put that on the map. Regarding the soul, I just want to. I was nodding. No. Please do not humanize. This algorithm.
I put quotes.
Quotes. Good, because this is you do like with a cursor. If you want to a computer program to run it on your on your iPad or on your phone or on your computer, you basically put the mouse and click twice. Or the same goes with AI. Let's not humanize, let's not. I mean, it's a great tool. It's really changing our lives, the lives of other people. But let's not put the soul, please, let's not humanize it. And I'm not saying it because I read the Pope's encyclic, but just for the definition. Just for the definition. So we recently did an index. We launched it. It's under CAIindex.ai. We wanted to see how how we are ready. How is the CE region ready for AI? How we can how we can safely, effectively, and securely host and operate and govern AI ecosystems. That's what we wanted to do, because we know, and this is a no-brainer for anybody here in the region, that between US and China, we are not in the third place. Just to say, and you mentioned where the chips are shipped, are made, and how the large language models are deployed. So I just wanted to say that we can see in Europe that we have, I would say, two trajectories. And you can check it out on our website, CAIindex.ai. I'm great at marketing. So two trajectories: shapers and consumers. That's basically the bottom line in Europe. That what you have. So the region is splitting, and the same goes to the whole region in Europe. That shapers, the nation is structurally prepared to lead and anchor the AI, and consumers, nations still, building the basic foundations. That would be the case. And one more thing from our study, and that's also for other countries. You also mentioned Singapore, that agility beats scale in very ways. So if you look on Europe, actually Estonia is I would say one of the forerunners of the AI indexes and all the digital transformation indexes. On the sovereignty, I think it is not a boardroom topic anymore. It's something that will be deployed. If you like transatlantic relations or not, in some manner, we will see the deployment of national large language models. That is going to happen, and probably some people will stop using Microsoft or Gmail for various reasons. This is actually happening in France, what we can see. So I would I can see that we are in the moment where every country has a national AI strategy, but strategy is nice, and Ivan, I don't know if you actually finished your strategy or not, but you're close, right? You're very, very close. But that's not execution. So one thing is actually strategy, another one is execution, and what we are actually beaten by our friends in China and US is actually execution. Is that things are actually getting done.
Okay, we've talked about, thank you very much, and I'm similar like you, I'm a big proponent of this CE vertical. We have a great partnership talking about two, let's say, parts of the AI stack that we have only briefly mentioned. One is talent, another one is energy. When it comes to talent, we have a very good partnership, a great partnership with our partners, friends from Poland, Kuzminski University. We have built something called European University Alliance, which is a flagship European Commission project for the universities all across Europe. And the topic of our alliance, where we have 10 universities, is AI and how it will revolutionize the way students learn from the moment they enter the university until the moment they leave the university. And one of our partners, in fact, is this German university, a very small German city. How many of you have heard of Heilbronn? Yeah, Heilbronn. Okay, a couple of, yeah, very good. What is Heilbronn famous for? Yes, it has Heilbronn University, but you probably don't know that Heilbronn also has, Thomas mentioned the ETH from Zurich, has just opened the second campus in Heilbronn, and TUM Munich, so let's say the second or one of the best technical universities in Europe, in Munich, opened the second campus in Heilbronn. Why? Any ideas? Why Heilbronn out of all places? It's a small city, 1 hour away from Stuttgart, nothing special about it, but there is something special about it. Schwarz Group, Lidl, Kaufland, that's the global headquarters, the biggest foundation, European, let's say, philanthropic foundation. Schwarz Group is in Heilbronn. Mr. Dieter Schwarz has brought these world-class universities to his own village, basically to try to build up talent for this race. They are our partners, so Heilbronn University. So I think the talent part of this AI stack is super important. Mr. Wang, I read yesterday, I think the news is very fresh. China just eliminated 12,000 degrees across China. The government did a big kind of a reshuffle of education sector and basically eliminated anything that the government thought would not be useful for the upcoming AI world. Many of them also liberal arts. These things can happen in China, and they can happen very quickly. But tell us a little bit about the philosophy behind this type of decisions, and why is China so very utilitarian about education? And just 2 minutes, because I want to get everyone's point on this talent question.
Great. I think that, basically, as you said, China is adjusting its curriculum of different universities, and then they will find out how many are really applicable, really can be used in the real society and also the AI society coming up. So China produces about 5-6 million STEM graduates. Each year they graduate.
Only 5-6 million.
Yeah, but no, the college graduates is about 13 million each year.
I'm joking, obviously.
Yeah, but
That's a lot.
the 40%, 50% are STEM related. A lot of them are probably not really that. It's too theoretical, so they are adjusting to some more practical for AI society. But the final point I would like to make is that we're seeing a lot of war going on now. I mean, AI is also used in the war, so it's very dangerous in the future. So I'm thinking of China has actually proposed on a nuclear front, no first user for the nuclear weapons.
So there's a human in the loop.
Yeah. So why can't we, now? We have UN now propose not to weaponize AI for the battlefield, right? Because if that is really happening, it's out of control. So we should have a really international agreement, not to weaponize AI. But you can develop AI for other good purposes, but not really on war. So I think that's probably something we are not talking about. But we see what happened in Ukraine and Russia fighting in Iran. I mean, a lot of AI technology is being used. Let's really have some moral grounds for that, and have an international treaty for not weaponize AI. So at least we should put that into the narrative of the global AI.
Thank you so much.
Phrase. Thank you.
On a similar talent question, Mr. Tsinchets, the Croatia, as a small country, has actually been quite successful in developing a kind of a vibrant entrepreneurial tech ecosystem. We have 2-3 unicorns, depending on how you count it. One of them is in, let's say, digital communication technologies, flirting and working a lot with AI. I think there's a couple of guys here from the Istrian company. I'm not going to advertise it, but the locals know what I'm talking about. So AI, to go back to what, echo what Doctor said, AI is a great equalizer of opportunities. We have, for a small country, China produces 5 million STEM graduates. There's less than 4 million Croatians, but we do some good things when it comes to AI, but can we be better in terms of producing better talent to strengthen up that important part of the AI ecosystem?
Yeah, sure that we can be better. I mean, we don't have problem with talent. We're talented in both football and AI, definitely. But the thing is that they should invest more in education. I think it's really needed, and it's not. We have in our national AI plan that Tomasz also mentioned, which we are right now developing. We are putting a strong focus on increasing the digital skills. And here I'm not talking just about technical skills. This is also about creativity, about critical thinking, about how for the kids not to understand how to use AI tools, but also to understand their limitations, to understand, to be able to recognize misinformation, to identify some potential bias, of course, to protect their privacy, but in a way to assess whether any AI-generated content is to be trusted or not. So we have definitely to work more on that. Universities are quite crucial here, and I'm not talking only about IT students. I think future lawyers or doctors or teachers or engineers or public servants, they all need to learn more about AI, because as we obviously all know, AI is not the future, it is now.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tatiana, maybe your final thoughts, also connected to, again, governance is a never-ending, issue when it comes to AI. Hopefully we'll see a bigger role of UN playing in this particular field. Multilateralism, as we've heard, is inevitable because the problems are global and no single country can deal with them themselves. What would be your final thoughts on this point?
Well, I think it's inevitable that we will see the world of several AI ecosystems. And one of the reasons was already mentioned: if one government can limit the access of foreigners to its system, that's obviously other governments, other societies will start develop these ecosystems. We clearly see the emergence of American-led AI ecosystem, Chinese-led. I'm absolutely sure will be European-led. But other countries like India, like Latin American countries, and many, many others. From this point of view, these ecosystems and the necessity to govern them is just the next step on the topic of multipolar world and multilateralism. I think that we still do not know how many poles there is in the current world, but we are well sure that there are many poles. So I think every pole will determine their own ecosystem around AI, and that is a good scenario, because the worst case scenario that there is one pole, one ecosystem. But that increases exactly the role of the United Nations and its institutions to make all these ecosystems compatible, to allow them to work together, to exchange, and at the same to allow the citizens the possibility to access all different ecosystems, which might be different from the point of view of government control, of private safety, of human rights, etc. So that will be the role of the United Nations and multilateral system.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Nishtar, some final remarks from you.
Well, I think it's entirely possible to draw on the best elements of the public and private worlds to create solutions.
Like Gavi.
Yes, I was just coming to that, because it's entirely possible to create solutions at scale. And Gavi, as you very kindly said, is an example for that. Today, we vaccinate 6 out of 10 children born anywhere in the world. And any vaccine developed at any particular point is available to the high-income countries and the low-income countries at par with each other. Why is that possible? Because we created an ecosystem. We developed the right public-private partnerships. We developed the right governing arrangements. We set it within a regulatory framework. And we work with governments very actively, and we've taken vaccination to scale. It's entirely possible to create something for AI that enables it to act as an equalizer rather than widening the gap. But for that, I want to emphasize once again what I said earlier, that we have to be very conscious about the things that cannot be done bilaterally. There are some things for which countries of the world have to come together to forge a consensus and to put predictable financing around that.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the red numbers are staring at me. We're running out of time, but we will be able to keep our discussion with the audience during the break. I want to thank my wonderful panelists. I hope you found our panel informative, and hope you learned something today. Thank you very much. Thank you.